What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Monday. We're getting started just a little bit late today, but we are nevertheless going to get started, and we're going to get through everything we need to get through regarding the final Seattle Seahawks draft pick for 2025. A pretty interesting one. A guy that I had talked about a little bit before the draft started, a guy that I had even had the Seahawks picking in one of their mock drafts. Ricky White III. Ricky White III, the final pick for the Seahawks out of 11 total selections. So I think that this was a pretty good pick. I think this was a guy who, if things had fallen just a little bit differently for him, could have been a fifth round pick, maybe even a fourth round pick. I think it was a very narrow path he walked to fall to the seventh round. So I think it was a good acquisition here. And while the Seahawks did not spend any high value picks at the wide receiver spot this year, only taking two in day three, I think they landed a couple of guys who could end up being impact players. Not to say they definitely will be, but we have a better chance than we would typically have with picks this late. So we're going to talk about Ricky White 3 today, Ricky White the third rather. Please click the thumbs up video button on this video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to help support the channel. Let's get into the Ricky White the third numbers. So, like I said, he's a wide receiver. First 2 years, he was at Michigan State with the Spartans. He barely played, and then he transferred to UNLV. So he definitely cranked it up there, and that's why he is a prolific player. That's why he was a draft pick, what he did at UNLV. Going to be 23 when the season starts, so moderate age. Nothing remarkable one way or the other there. His measurements, 6'1" and 1/8", so he's slightly taller than the average receiver, but he's also very light, 184 pounds, 13th percentile. So this is a lean receiver that doesn't necessarily have a ton of play strength, and he is definitely going to have some deficiencies in that area. 31 and 3/4-inch arms. So that's slightly below average over the last 26 years for combine receivers. So workable, and slightly below average hands. 9 1/4-inch hands, 41st percentile. So in terms of size, he's mostly around average, except for being very lean. And his combine performance was okay, except for his 40, which was very bad. He ran a 4.61 40, which really tanked his stock, in my opinion. I think this was going to be a fifth round pick, maybe even a fourth round pick, and then he ran a 4.61, which is 16th percentile, and that's really not okay given his play style. So it killed him, but there's a caveat there. He ran much better at his pro day, and we'll talk about that a little more later and what that might mean, but suffice to say that 4.61 is quite possibly not representative of what he can do. 1.55 10-yard split is about average. 36-inch vert is about average. 10-foot 3-inch broad is slightly above average. So other than that, okay. Not stand out, not remarkable, but fine. Okay, so going over his career so far by the statistics, 2020 COVID year, he got a little bit of action, 4 games, played a good amount of snaps in those 4 games, 166 total, 21 targets, 10 catches, but very effective on the catches that he did make. 223 yards, so he was definitely a downfield target. 16-yard average depth of target, actually. 46 yak, so it was mostly air yards, so he was definitely a downfield guy. 1 touchdown, 3 drops, and the drops are going to be a recurring thing here. 2 out of 4 uncontested catch situations, 3 missed tackles forced, ran slightly over 100 routes, 63 run blocking snaps, mostly wide, but a good amount in the slot, 118 to 48, 51 zone run blocking snaps, 6 gap run blocking snaps. Graded slightly above average, 64.8, 64.7 as a receiver, 59 run blocking, fine. Nothing stand out, nothing particularly remarkable. 2022 was the year where his career really took off. He did not play any in 2021, and that's why he transferred out. So, nothing to say there. 2022 plays all 12 games, 717 snaps for UNLV, 80 targets, 51 receptions. So he's a featured part of that offense now. 619 yards, 323 yak. So he's definitely developing the yak skills now. More than half of his yards are yak. 4 touchdowns, 9 drops. I told you it was going to come back into play. 8.5 average depth of target. So now he's getting targeted on shorter and intermediate throws more. Only 4 out of 15 contested catch. So that's pretty darn ugly. 1 interception when targeted, 13 missed tackles forced, 427 routes run, 289 pass block snaps, so mostly running routes, and mostly acting as a wide receiver, almost 600 snaps wide, 120 snaps in the slot, 2 inline, 2 in the backfield, and 165 run blocking zone, 111 in gap, so again, more zone than gap. And graded out slightly above average again, 65.2. Makes strides as a run blocker. So that's interesting. That's cool. And that gets us to 2023. And this was his career year. This is why he has a lot of the positive attention he does. Had a phenomenal season for the UNLV Rebels. I'm not sure. 14 games, 800 snaps. 135 targets, so he is getting spammed the ball almost 10 times a game. 88 catches, 1,483 yards, so he's averaging more than 10 yards a target this year. Really good. Some yak, but mostly air yards. 577 yak yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 drops. So better. Definitely headed in the right direction here. 12.4 average depth of target. So more of a downfield threat this year. 9 of 19 contested catch, not too bad. 5 interceptions when targeted. Again, he doesn't have great quarterback play there. 10 missed tackles forced, so not a huge yak guy yet, but showing a little bit. And ran just over 400 routes, just under 400 run blocking snaps. So he's on the field for all kinds of stuff. He's wide over 520 snaps. He's in the slot over 270 snaps. So mostly wide, but a good mix, and 6 backfield snaps. He's in zone a lot more than gap, 270 to 108. And he's graded out really well by PFF, over a 90 as a receiver, 67.7 as a run blocker. So we're getting a pretty well-rounded picture here now. We've got something going here going into 2024. Another really good year for him. Not as good as 2023, but it was enough to get him positive attention during draft season. 13 games, 764 snaps. So puts together another full gamut of action. 124 targets, 79 catches, 1,041 yards. So not quite as efficient. Definitely not being not as many big plays, but still very productive, still almost 80 catches. 423 of his yards are yaks, so still less than half, but not a bad number. Double-digit touchdowns, that might be part of the reason why he had less yards. When your plays end in the end zone, you get less yards, I guess. 7 drops, upticks a little bit. 11.8 average depth of target, so a little more downfield than typical. 9 of 23 in contested catch situations, not great. 3 interceptions when targeted, 23 missed tackles forced, so that takes a big uptick. He's definitely much more of a dynamic threat with the ball in his hands, definitely doing more work, making players miss. More run blocking snaps than pass routes, so you can see that UNLV really trusts him to be on the field for run snaps. So that's an indicator that they like his run blocking as well. They're not taking him off the field for those plays. Over 500 snaps wide, 244 in the slot, 14 in the backfield. A lot more gap than zone this year, so switch things up. The run game for UNLV became much more of a gap-based one. 80.8 grade, 82 as a receiver, almost 70 as a run blocker. Again, well-rounded, man. Well-rounded. And that's his career. So very productive, a lot of numbers, a lot of stats, a lot of good things. You look at the career, 43 games, almost 2,500 snaps, 360 targets, 228 catches, 3,366 yards, so almost 10 yards per target for his career. 1,369 yaks, so it's not the biggest part of his game, but it is a part of his game. Same number of touchdowns as drops, which we don't love. And I do think it's fair to say that he has an issue with his hands. 24 to 24 there. 11.6 average depth of target. 24 of 61 contested catch. 9 interceptions. Again, I think that's more of an indictment on his quarterbacks. 49 missed tackles forced. A lot of them came in his final year. 1,300 pass routes run, 1,134 run blocking snaps. And you can see that by an almost, what is that? More than 2.5 to 1. He's lining up wide more than he is in the slot. 1,738 to 685 in the slot. A little bit backfield, a little bit inline, but it's not really a part of his game. More zone than gap, but good amount of both. So those are the numbers for Ricky White. Good career he had. Mostly all of it at UNLV. So now we have the numbers. Now all we need is further context. So keep an eye out for another video later today. And then another video after that where we'll wrap up our look at Ricky White. And that'll wrap up the look at the draft class for the Seahawks. All right. Thanks for watching. See you guys later. Go Hawks. More stuff coming soon.